Today I'm going to show you how to cut your bright data cost by 95%.
Also, in the process of doing this, I've discovered something very interesting. You won't believe this.
For their data services, there are two types they offer. First one is web scraper, the other one is web datasets. Web dataset is the cheaper option. This is their internal database. They already scraped and stored the data for you. You simply pay a fee to access it. The biggest drawback with this database is with its low accuracy. If you think about your database, if it's like this and you have a scraper that's constantly going through it, while the scraper is towards the end of the database, the earlier sets of data is actually very old and not up to date. The accuracy of these type of database depends on how fast and how often Bright Data scan those websites. For people who need high accuracy on their database, Bright Data's database is often not good enough. If you want high accuracy for yourself, then we need to talk about the second option, web scraping tools. What a lot of people don't realize is that most of these web scraper tools are essentially a bypassing system. So when you send a request to the web scraper on Bright Data bypass whatever normally stops you on the website so you can get the data. If you can do that step yourself, you can send a request directly to the website you're trying to get data from. It's just another gate. If you can do the bypassing yourself, you will no longer need to pay access to the data. I'm going to give you the bypassing solution so you can have your own scraper tools. Welcome to the dark road that will save you money. Here are some of the services Bright Data offers, and I'm going to use Amazon's example for this video. You want to right-click Inspect Network tab and find the request that your browser is using to access the website. It should be one of the first few requests that showed up when you load the website. Go to Preview or Response. The request you're looking for is going to have all the product information you need. Now that we have the request, I also add a little parsing so you can see what I'm getting back here. Take a look at the headers. Everything else but the cookies can be generated by me. I can spawn the rest of the headers and send unlimited requests. I just need an acceptable cookie. Looking inside the cookie, you have session ID, which is used to identify your current browser session, could be probably very important. You have the ID time, which tells you when the session expires. You have this to track currency, this to track the regions, you have this to track performance, this is to identify your device, and you have the session token, which could also be important. This is probably the main authentication token used to validate your access, and then you have some internal routing cookies. At this point, what you're trying to do is to figure out which part of the cookies is actually important. So what I'm doing is removing a piece of the cookie at a time and send a request to see if the request still gets a 200. If it does, that means that piece of the cookie is not important for us. We're trying to minimize what we will have to generate ourselves. So we're left with only one thing, which is really good news. Now we just have to figure out in a normal process how we're going to generate this piece of information, but there's something else more interesting happening. So just out of curiosity, I tried some random number that I just made up in my head, and you won't believe that it actually worked. This is crazy.
Are you seeing this?
And this is even a crazier part of this entire process. Everything is removed and it's still working. This means we don't need to do anything to make this request call. Take a look at this. This is me running with 0 cookies right now. I'm not using any cookies, sending that same request. As you can see, I'm still getting the product details and the reviews. This is essentially like hiring a bouncer that checks no IDs. Amazon have all these cookies in place, but you don't need to use them to access the website. That is why this is so crazy and very surprising to me. Earlier I mentioned you're paying Bright Data to do the bypassing for you. In this case, there is actually no bypassing involved. Because normally what I would do here is to start reverse engineering the process of generating this session ID, right? But now I don't have to generate anything. But I will do is I'll tell you a few quick methods in case your website is not as funny as this one. So basically what you want to do is you want to understand how Amazon generate this cookie and try to create it yourself. This is the first method. Or the second one is you try to automate the process of collecting this cookie so you can have a bulk number of these cookies. And once you have them, you can just inject them into your request and run it as usual.
It can get a little bit complicated in the reverse engineering process because you don't know how long the cookie will last, you don't know where the cookie came from, and sometimes you might have to trace back to older cookies, and there might be obfuscated information or processes before you get to the final cookies you want, and there's also a expiration date. You might have to test on the cookie expire usually for most of the website, a couple of days, sometimes a couple of hours, so this process could be a little bit complicated, but that's it.
And just like that, we have made the Collect by URL web scraper tool from Brightdata. You can now send requests directly to Amazon and get product information without using Brightdata at all. Now for each product, we're getting a lot of product details such as the title, product dimensions, item models, and things like that. And you can modify your parsing script to get the data that you are more interested in. I also, by the way, parse like the top 5 reviews here. You can see it as well. So now I'm trying to use a completely different URL, a random product I just grabbed on Amazon. And as you can see here, I'm also getting all the product details. I'm also getting all the product informations and review as well. This is exactly what the Collect by URL web scraper from Brightdata is doing. And we have just now completely bypassed the whole entire services and able to access the data directly ourselves. In case if some of you guys want to build out the Amazon reviews Collect by URL tool from Brightdata, I'm gonna go over it super quickly with you right now. As y'all know, since last year, 2025 of February, you can no longer access Amazon reviews without logging in anymore. From my experiment, all the old endpoint had closed for me. If you have a hidden one somewhere, feel free to share. Looks like the straightforward solution would be collect a bulk amount of logged in cookies and then inject them into your request. So essentially, if you want to bypass any scraper on Brightdata, what you need to do is 1, identify the minimal sets of cookie that is required. 2, recreate or bulk collect those cookies. 3, inject these cookies into your request. Now you can just send requests directly to the website and get the data without using Brightdata at all. Yes, you will need proxy as you scale, but if you are able to successfully finish the scaling process, what I have seen with my past client is that they can eliminate 100% of the cost from the web scraping tools from Brightdata. And using a cheaper proxy service, they will be able to get 90 to 95% of the cost down from Brightdata. Thank you for watching. Bye!